So this was the most unforeseen major league franchise, especially hockey in the 1970s. You would think a second team in Minnesota or a second team pretty well in the South or even Florida would appear, but when the Kansas City Scouts moved to Colorado, it didn't improve the team. If anything, the only won 20 games of their first season in the Mile High State. Now, the 77 Colorado Rockies season was their first ever. The Kansas City Scouts relocated the offseason to Denver, and with the WHA's Denver Spurs leaving Denver in a midnight move to Ottawa, Ontario just about 10 minutes earlier, Denver would get a franchise and the team would be anointed the Colorado Rockies. The team moved from Kansas City again, which was a 2 year NHL franchise that struggled from the beginning. It was an abject failure. Now, the team took to the ice for the first regular season game against the Maple Leafs on October 6, 76. Former Leaf and now Rockies goalie Doug Favell played extremely well, stopping 39 of Toronto's 41 shots on net. The Pest Wilf Payma notched one goal, 2 assists, and a fight. Rookie Larry Skinner scored the first NHL regular season counter for the franchise, and eventually they won 4-2. The team was competitive in the weak Smite division for a major portion of the season. Early in the campaign, the Rockies picked up wins by either the goon tactics of Steve Durbano or through the heroic feats of the goalies, Doug Favell and former Montreal Canadian and future Pittsburgh Penguin Michel Place. Bill McKenzie was also a goalie for the Rockies but played only 5 games. Very good draft for them that first year, by the way. Paul Gardner, Mike Kitchen, and Larry Skinner they got. Now, on some nights, the Rockies could come back from 2 or 3 goal deficits to get ties or an occasional win, but then the next night the team would be overmatched by one of the elite squads in the association. Now, goonery was a big part of hockey in '76, and the Rockies' goon at the beginning of the season was Steve Durbano. After losing 3 in a row, Durbano tried to get the Rockies going with goon tactics. Despite this, he did not last long for the franchise, playing only 18 games. His penalty minute in total, however, in those contests, was sufficient to lead the team for the season. Now, squads were launching over 40 and 50 shots on the net against Place and Favell. After a November game against the defending Stanley Cup champion Canadiens, Place was noticeably hurt. The Canadiens were blasting the pucks towards Place all game. One shot up the sticks of Canadiens player Murray Wilson put Place down in the second period with an arm injury, but the goalie was able to get up and finish the contest. The Rockies forwards were able to come back twice from 2 goal deficits to finally tie the game at 3 apiece with just about 9 minutes left in the third. However, was Place preserved the tie by stopping 47 of 50 shots, 20 in the third. Now, a November 2-1 loss to the Barons raised the ire of general manager Ray Miron. During the second intermission, Miron burst in the locker room and said if the Rockies didn't pull the game out, he was going to call up 3 minor leaguers and send down 3 Rockies. Miron kept his word after the 2-1 Rockies loss. He called up Mike Kitchen, Paul Gardner, and Jim McMurray. Gardner made a quick impact, tallying 5 goals in his first 4 NHL games. Kitchen, a very solid defenseman, helped show up the defense, and despite a 5-3 loss to the Bruins, Bruin coach Don Cherry raved that he was impressed with the Rockies. Now, the Rockies would be successful in upending the divisional rivals, the Minnesota North Stars. It took 3 goals in the third period, including the final 2 minutes of the game, to win the contest 4-2. After the match, Coach Johnny Wilson was raving for his team. The Rockies had taken over sole possession of third place to Smite with the win. By February 1st, the Rockies had a 2-point third place lead over Minnesota and Vancouver. The Rockies would face the Rangers on February 1st, and Place would stop 48 of 50 Ranger shots. His performance would keep the Rockies, lead the Rockies to a 5-2 victory. The win extended third place lead to 4 points. A February 6th game against the Penguins saw the Rockies score 4 unanswered third period goals to win the contest 5-2. The Rockies did have a former member of the WHA Denver Spurs on the club. The great Ron DeLorme, the former Spur, would score the game winner in his first stint with the squad. He had playing with Baltimore in the Southern Hockey League until being called up. The Rockies continued to be successful. He enjoyed an 8-6 win against Minnesota as it extended a third place margin of 5 points ahead of them. The Rockies were only 5 points behind second place Chicago, but on February 16th, the Rockies continued to expand, winning their 4th game of the season against the Red Wings. A February 20 triumph against the North Stars would be the last highlight of the season for the club, who was all downhill from there. Now, by March 27th, the Rockies were officially out of the playoff hunt. It was a tribute to an 18-game winning streak that began on February 22nd. The goaltending of Favel and Plas keep the team in contention during many games. A typical night saw the goalies facing 50 shots. When the Rockies were based in Kansas City, the Scouts had finished their tenure by winning only one game in their final 44. The winless streak finally stopped in a 6-3 match against the Canucks. It was the second last game of the season, and the Rockies' season ended with a loss to the LA Kings. So, Colorado, 54 points, but only, get this, ladies and gentlemen, 10 points out of second place. The Blues, 32, 39, and 9. The Stars, 23, 39, and 18. Chicago, 26, 43, and 11. And Vancouver, 25, 42, and 13. Now, record against opponents, and pretty freaky, ladies and gentlemen. I would suspect that most of the teams in the league, like overall, because this was the 77 season, ladies and gentlemen, Colorado went 0-3-1 against Montreal, so even tying them was a big victory. Now they were 3-2-1 against Minnesota, 2-2 against Chicago, and Vancouver 2-2-2. Now they didn't win against the Islanders of Philadelphia. They had a hard time with lead signs. Like again, the Patrick Division are only 2-16-2. Now against Buffalo, they didn't win all season, and against the Adams, 3-10-3. Now the North Division, again, it wasn't too bad. 7-10-3. They went 4-0 against Detroit, which came in the playoff stead. So that Montreal's 12 ties that year to go 68-12. One of them was against Colorado. The opening win again was against the Maple Leafs, but unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, from October 5th to early November, they only won 3 games while tying one. There were 3-10-1. So but the end streak at the last of it, they at one point, ladies and gentlemen, they were in 17, 23, and 9, but ended up 20, 28, and what is it now? Okay, so we're 17 to 29 and 9, and end up losing 27 games in the second half of the season. Now, Wilt Payton led all Colorado scorers with 81 minutes and penalties. Paul Gardner had 30 goals. Gary Croteau, very underrated, 51 points, 24 games. Nelson Payet had 23 counters. The big winger, Barry Dean, had 39 points, going 14 goals. Dave Hudson had 36 points, going 15 counters. The great Simon Nalé had 31 points in 52 games. Chuck Aronson, the former Montreal Canadian, had 23 points in 61 games. And former Habs as well, Ron Andruff, had 22 points in 66 encounters. Dennis Dupre, the former Maple Leaf, had 18 points, 57 games. Colin Campbell, the future Oiler, had 11 points in 54 encounters. Former Spur Ron Delorme had 6 goals in 29 matches. Mike Kitchen had a solid season, only -2 in 60 games played. The great Phil Roberto only had 1 counter in 22 games, but had 5 assists. Brian Lefley also played that year. Former Habs Sean Shanahan. Henry Bouchard played 9 games, 2 assists. But Durbano, ladies and gentlemen, 129 minutes of penalties in 19 games. And Michel Plas played 54 games. Favel played 30. And former Hab Randy Rhoda, a lot of former Habs. Now Michel Plas, 12, 29, and 10. Led the team in average for qualifiers at 382. Favel won 18, 15, and 390, while McKenzie went 0-2 and 1. So now at the time, this is very weird. They had affiliations with 3 different teams: the Flint Generals, the Greensboro Generals, and the Rhode Island Reds. And again, a very, very interesting first campaign, because there was to see the former Montreal Canadiens on that team, there seemed to be 5 or 6 prospects that Montreal didn't have room for were playing on that team. So technically, it was almost like a Nova Scotia Voyageurs farm team. But they had talent. A good skating team, and Plas and Favel, say like Ken Dryden, they're the type of goalies could steal a game, but need to give up the bad goal every once in a while to compensate. So that's the story, but that's 76-77 Colorado Rockies. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the Stanley Cup. Bye.